The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Remember the hype? They were supposed to be the revolution. We were promised a new era of gaming, a true generational leap that would redefine everything. There would be no more loading screens, worlds that were indistinguishable from reality, and games that were simply unfeasible on outdated hardware. But now, years after they launched, I think a lot of us are feeling the same way. This just isn't it. It's becoming harder and harder to defend what was supposed to be the future of gaming. While PlayStation 5 sales remain strong, surpassing 80.3 million units by July 2025, and Xbox climbs past 33 million, the general excitement feels like it has cooled. When you gaze at your costly new generation console, it's difficult not to feel a sense of disappointment. Hey everybody, open-minded neutral here, and in today's video, I want to get into a topic that has been bugging me for the last couple of years on why it's hard to defend the 9th generation of consoles, especially from the loud noise we like to call social media. But first, before we dive headfirst into today's topic, let me hit you with the classic YouTube checklist, but with a little twist. If you like conversations that are open-minded, neutral, and not afraid to poke at ideas from every angle, then go ahead and smash that like button. Share this video with someone who enjoys a fresh perspective, and feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and sometimes they're even more insightful than my own ideas. Engaging with diverse viewpoints enriches our understanding and fosters a sense of community. So, let's dive into today's discussion and see where our collective curiosity takes us. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. This channel isn't about echo chambers. It's about ideas colliding, sparking, and maybe even making you laugh along the way. Now, let's get into it.
The dimensions are weakening considerably. How bad is it? Well, it is certainly not good.
Let's start with the most important part of any console, the games. Or in this case, the frustrating lack of generation-defining games. When the PS5 and Series X launched back in 2020, we expected a library of experiences that would justify the price tag. Instead, what we got was a trickle of remakes, a flood of sequels, and an overwhelming wave of cross-generation titles. Just look at the PlayStation 5's library. A significant portion of its acclaimed exclusives have been remakes like Demon's Souls or cross-gen titles that were also on PS4. And even the genuinely new titles like the excellent Returnal or Astro Bot haven't been the kind of system-selling juggernauts that define a generation on their own. This generation has been largely carried by incredible third-party and indie hits, with games like Baldur's Gate 3 and Helldivers 2 dominating the conversation. Their success is fantastic for gaming, but it also highlights a void left by the console makers themselves. For years, the biggest and most anticipated releases, from God of War Ragnarok to Hogwarts Legacy, were designed to run on the old PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. This makes perfect sense from a business perspective. The launch of this generation was hobbled by a global chip shortage that made just finding a new console a nightmare. Companies couldn't afford to ignore the massive player base on older hardware. But for those of us who did upgrade, it felt like we paid a premium for a slightly better version of a last-gen game. There wasn't that one compelling must-play exclusive that made you feel like you were truly in the future. We were told this was next-gen, but for years it has felt more like Generation 8.5.
This is gonna be awesome.
Form up!
It's not just the games. The technical revolution we were promised has also felt more like a gentle evolution. We were sold a future of instant loading with ultra-fast SSDs and transformative graphics powered by real-time ray tracing. And don't get me wrong, those improvements are real and they're noticeable, but they haven't been the paradigm shift we were led to expect. The visual leap from the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X to the current consoles is often pretty modest. Most games still feel like they could have run on the previous generation, just with a better resolution and a smoother frame rate. This is a direct result of that cross-gen development cycle. When developers have to make sure their game works on a 2013 Xbox One, they are fundamentally limited in how much they can push new hardware. The core design, the world's complexity, and it's all anchored to a decade-old standard. We get shinier surfaces and faster fast travel, but the core experience often doesn't feel all that new. Then there's Microsoft's two-console approach. The Xbox Series S, a cheaper, less powerful machine, created a split in the market. While it's a great, affordable entry point, its weaker specs became a new baseline that developers had to account for, which arguably diluted the potential for a true next-gen leap across the board. The result is a generation where even on the most powerful hardware, we still see performance issues, buggy launches, and that constant choice between quality mode and performance mode. We were promised both, but we're constantly being forced to choose one. This isn't the seamless, powerful future we were promised. It's a future of compromises. The very identity of the consoles is blurring. Xbox has started a multi-platform strategy, bringing some of its games to PlayStation and Nintendo. We've seen titles like Forza Horizon 5, Sea of Thieves, and Gears of War make their way to the PS5. If you can play a growing number of Xbox games on a PlayStation, it begs the question, what's the reason to own an Xbox? It feels less like a confident hardware ecosystem and more like a glorified launcher for Game Pass. And it seems PlayStation is also heading down that direction before third party, as they are starting to put their games on PC and soon Xbox and Nintendo as well. Now, honestly, I don't have a problem with this, but it does take away what makes a console special, its identity, something I don't think we are ever going to get back again.
What if there was someone who could help us?
You mean Tyr, the old god of war in these lands, who is dead?
Well, for a dead man, Odin seemed pretty keen on seeing he wasn't found.
If he's out there, we gotta find him.
Beyond the consoles themselves, the entire gaming landscape has shifted in ways that feel increasingly hostile to players. This generation normalized the $70 price tag for standard edition games, a big price hike that was supposed to be justified by a leap in quality. But as I talked about, that leap has often felt marginal. And speaking of price hikes, I have never in my time as a gamer seen prices go up after a console has been out for 5 years. It's like they're saying, hey, if you didn't buy our mid, poorly planned, and underwhelming console within 5 years, that's a you problem. At the same time, aggressive monetization has become the norm. We're seeing battle passes, premium currencies, and microtransactions in full-priced single-player games. Sony, in particular, made a significant and costly push into live service games. This was a strategy that was met with a rocky reception from fans and resulted in project cancellations and major restructurings, with the company scaling back its original plan of releasing 12 live service titles by 2026. The push toward digital-only consoles is another sore spot for many. By removing the disk drive, companies get complete control over the marketplace, which eliminates the used game market and the very concept of physical ownership. This isn't really about consumer choice. It's about locking you into their digital storefront forever. Looming over all of this are massive industry consolidations. Microsoft's acquisitions of Bethesda and Activision Blizzard signal a shift in focus from hardware innovation to content and subscription dominance. The console wars are no longer about who has the better box, but about who owns the most studios and can lock you into their subscription service. While a service like Game Pass offers undeniable value, this consolidation of power is worrying for the long-term health and diversity of the industry. The focus shifts from creating the best possible games to simply acquiring enough content to keep subscribers paying. In this new landscape, the console itself can feel like an afterthought. So, why is it so hard to defend this generation? It's because the initial promise feels so distant from our current reality. The game libraries have been slow to mature, held back by cross-gen releases and remakes that make the hardware feel less essential. The technical leap, while there, has been incremental rather than revolutionary, hampered by a fractured market and conservative game design. And the entire industry has leaned into practices that feel more focused on shareholder value than the player experience. It feels like we're at the end of an era. The traditional console model, defined by distinct generations with groundbreaking exclusive games, seems to be breaking down. Xbox is acting more like a third-party publisher. PlayStation is bringing its games to PC, and the lines between platforms are blurring more every day. Perhaps this isn't a bad generation so much as it is a transitional one. The awkward, painful bridge to a future where the box in your living room matters less than the subscription you pay for. But for those of us who grew up with the excitement of a true generational leap, it's hard to look at the current state of gaming and not feel that something valuable has been lost. This generation has been a frustrating one for so many reasons, but that's just how I see it. What do you think? Has the PS5 and Xbox Series era been a disappointment for you, or do you feel like the criticism is overblown? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this analysis, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the world of gaming and other topics from an open-minded and neutral point of view. And remember, this channel is all about keeping it neutral, keeping it curious, and keeping the conversation open. So until next time, stay neutral, stay open-minded, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.